I spent a ton of time in the last few years watching YouTube videos like this one, reading books, listening to podcasts, and on, gathering all this information in order to solve a lot of these kinds of problems and questions that I've had in my life. But what I ended up finding at the end was that in most cases, the question isn't somewhere external, like on the internet or in the mind of some specific individual. In most cases, the answer was right here. And all I needed to do was just sit down, think a bit, use my brain a bit, and I could come up with the answer in 95% of cases. You can learn more about this first link in the description. But basically, what I found that was that in most cases, whenever I have some sort of problem, the problem is kind of far too specific in order for me to be able to just search it up on YouTube or Google or find a book on the topic and get it solved. And I found that that was mostly just me coping, right? Like a problem would arise, usually some mental problem or whatever, something in life. And I noticed that there will always be two paths that I can take. Path number one, which I always used to take, which now I realize is just procrastination, is I would just search up on YouTube my exact problem and then like a solution, expecting that like some magical video is gonna pop up in my YouTube search that's gonna have the guy talking about the exact situation that I'm in, about the exact problem that I'm in, and he's gonna give me the exact specific answer, which is gonna help specifically me. Of course, this never worked. What actually ended up working was doing the thing which actually is more kind of disciplined, and that is just turning off my phone, removing distractions, either sitting in my room or going for a walk, and just thinking about it. And thinking until I come up with the answer myself, which so far has been the only real way that I've found that I can find any solution to any problem that I might face. Searching it up on Google literally is just procrastination at this point. When I'm too lazy to think, I just do that, find out that the problem isn't online, and then just still, again, just sit down, think about it, and find a solution. Now, the way that I do this is pretty simple, right? It's a few steps. The first step is you identify the problem, right? So there's some sort of problem in your life. Maybe you notice yourself, for example, when you're in some social situation, you get this really negative emotion, like you start feeling bad about yourself for some reason, right? Maybe when you're hanging out around a specific group of people, or when you're in some specific place or talking about some specific topic, you notice you feel kind of shitty. All right, that's the problem. So first, you identify the problem is you feel kind of bad, but you need to directly identify like what is the actual feeling, right? So then I would sit down and just kind of think, what is this feeling? And I would kind of try to relate it to another time that I had that feeling when I knew like what the feeling was. So identify exactly, all right, so the feeling or the emotion is this. Okay, it's, I don't know, anger. And then you come up with exactly what the cause of it is. So you realize in some situations, in some social situations, let's say, you get angry. Why do you get angry? So now you start thinking back on your memories every time you got angry, every time you got an emotion, what was the exact thing that happened, and you just start connecting the dots in your mind, and slowly you're building like this picture. Okay, so now you found the cause, it's because you're around this one person. Now you think about the solution. Okay, so what I noticed, so what you realize, right? You get angry every time you're around this one person. So what is the simple solution? Start avoiding that person. Okay, but then of course, because it's never that simple, let's say that person is a part of your friend group and they're always there. Okay, then you've tried finding another solution. Maybe it goes a bit deeper. Maybe it's not just when you're speaking to them, maybe it's just when you're speaking to them about this one specific topic. So now you start thinking about that and you realize, okay, so the solution then is to every time you're talking to this person about this topic, just avoid talking to this person about this topic, and you will not be getting this negative emotion, which is anger. Then the final step is literally just to execute. This is a very kind of rough step by step kind of thing that happens in my mind, but this is basically how I solve like all of my problems that I've had so far. You identify it, you find the cause, you find a solution, and then you execute on the solution. Now, a lot of people will find it pretty difficult to just kind of think about this and come up in their mind. What I do is I either like go for a walk or I just sit back here in my room, lay in my bed, and just kind of think. And in my mind, I'm able to kind of iron out everything and make it all neat, all the thoughts together, and get to a full solution. Now, a lot of people won't really be able to do that. They'll have too many racing thoughts, they can't really control them. So, a useful thing that you can do, a useful tool, is to just journal about your problem. Journaling like this never really worked for me. It was always kind of too slow. Like you gotta write down all the stuff, or even if you're typing it on your phone, you gotta like type out all your thoughts. When I'm just thinking, I'm thinking basically at the speed that I'm talking right now, if not even quicker. And so I'm getting through a bunch of these thoughts really quickly. It can come up with an answer way quicker. But that is because I've kind of trained up my mind to where I can control pretty well what I'm thinking about. You know, if I'm thinking about this one problem, my mind isn't just going to be jumping to that TikTok I saw, or that place that I went, or that person, or that girl, or whatever. I can focus my mind pretty solidly to this one point and just think about it. The reason I was able to do this and the reason I'm able to control my mind so nicely like this is because I've spent the last good like 3, almost 4 years, actually, yeah, 4 years in meditation. I was meditated a lot in the last like 3 to 4 years, and through that, I've been able to kind of train up my mind to just focus on one thing at a time, one thing that I choose. But if you've kind of not reached this point, or maybe not been meditating, never meditated at all, literally just take out like a notebook and a pen. It works best when it's like physical, like pen and paper. You can also type it like on your phone or laptop, and just start kind of journaling about your thoughts and kind of coming up with the solution through that. Now, a thing that helped me as well, if to you too journaling doesn't really help, is to try to think, but also have some sort of low effort activity while you're thinking, right? This is something that is actually pretty popular. You've probably heard people talking about it. Like people go for, let's say, a drive, you know, like to clear their mind. You know, literally what they're doing is let's say they sit on their motorcycle or they sit in their car and they just go around, drive around the city or the block or whatever, because that's like a low effort activity, which is keeping your body kind of entertained, right? It's keeping your mind focused on that thing. But at the same time, it's like in a weird way, it distracts your mind enough so your mind isn't like jumping to different thoughts, but it leaves just enough, you know, mental space so you can think about the thing that you have, the problem that you have. Some things which I do to kind of get in this, you know, in this place which helps me think is I like going for walks, drives, I like jogging. Sometimes I like hitting a workout, just no music, just literally work out and just think. And one thing that I also kind of strangely also helped with this is when I would draw. Like just take like a pen and just a piece of paper, just draw something, whatever, and think while I'm drawing. Again, it's just low effort activities which are kind of keeping you busy, but not too busy to where you can't use your brain. These are, you know, I think the best, or maybe even the only way that you can really solve most of the problems that you might face in your life. Because at least what I found is that so many of these problems are so specific that you're just not going to be able to find them, at least easily, on YouTube or the internet or even books. And sure, maybe you'll find the answer in like some book, but it's the difference between sitting down, thinking for like 1 to 2 hours and coming up with the answer yourself, or spending like 10 hours searching for a book and then reading through the entire book in order to find the same answer. It's simply just better to sit down, remove all your distractions, and just think of the answer yourself, because you'll be surprised at the amount of intelligent things that can come out of your brain when you actually use it as it's intended to be used. If you want to learn to improve your communication skills way quicker and you want to learn the best information that I've learned in the last 3.5+ years that I've been studying this topic, you can check out the first link in the description. If you found this video helpful, I think you'll find a lot of value in this video right here. Click on the subscribe button and do the work.